You mean he dressed like that on purpose? By Miraculous Millie 47. Summary. Everyone in Class 2A knows that Midoriya Izuku is a certified fashion disaster. Bakugou Katsuki isn't much better. Really, what they have failed to realize is that the two of them do it on purpose. Or, Class A realizes that the boys grew up in the fashion world. If there was one thing that the entirety of Class 2A knew, it was that Midoriya Izuku had terrible fashion sense. He had a love for baggy cargo pants, oversized tacky t-shirts, and above all else, those gnarly red sneakers. Something that Class A hadn't thought of was why exactly Izuku had such awful fashion sense. Izuku was totally fine on letting them assume that it was just a matter of taste. In reality, though, he ignored the rules of fashion for the exact same reason Katsuki dressed as fashionably edgy as he did. The Bakugous. They were some of the most famous fashion designers in all of Japan, having started out when they were only in college. Bakugou Mitsuki had been a model since she was only a child. And when she met design major Bakugou Masaru in university, they hit it off. Mitsuki had been the face of the company, and Masaru was the behind-the-scenes brains. Their designs and ideas were so groundbreaking, and that only after a few years, their business kicked off. They met Midoriya Izuku in college, before their business boomed, and she stayed their best friend through all of it. She even let her only son be a model for the company, from the time he was a year old until he was 7 or 8 when he began to reject the idea. He and Katsuki had been the faces of the Bakugou children line for so long that it gave them both a distaste for the fashion world. It led to Bakugou refusing to wear any of his parents' clothes and dressing in dark, unpredictable ways. It led Izuku to dressing in the cheapest, ugliest clothes he could possibly find. The two boys had been lucky to go so long without anyone in their class finding out about their previous jobs. But they should have known that it wouldn't last for long. Their streak was broken by Hagakure, of all people. She had found an old-fashioned catalog right before Class 2A's weekly movie night, and was flipping through it while Koda and Ojiro picked their favorite movie. It was between Snow White and Karate Kid, apparently, both of which Izuku was totally game to see. He was sitting in between Uraraka and Kachan, a totally normal occurrence as of late. Uraraka and Kirishima had begun to date a few months back, and their relationship meant that their two best friends often tagged along to whatever they were doing. Since Izuku and Katsuki already spent lots of their time together, it was no skin off their nose. They only got closer as time went on. Izuku could say safely that they were good friends again, although not exactly best friends. Uraraka was probably, and always would be, his best friend. But Kachan just took a different place in his life. He was something more. Not family, but something else. Soulmate, Izuku's mind hissed to him whenever he dwelled on it. He always shoved that thought down as far as it could go. There was no need to ruin a perfectly good friendship with his feelings. "Oh my God!" Hagakure's voice broke over the low chatter of Class 2A. She jumped out of her chair she was occupying, waving around the old catalog like a crazy person. "Oh my God! Oh my God!" "What?" Ashido asked, sounding a bit panicked. The rest of the class braced themselves for the worst, as only children bonded through trauma could do. Hagakure stopped, hopping around like a deranged rabbit, folding the magazine so that it was on a specific page they could all see. The moment Izuku laid his eyes on it, his heart dropped to his feet. It was a picture of the Bakugou winter collection about 10 years ago, if he remembered correctly. He and Kachan were both posing on the page, engaging in a fake snowball fight, laughing and smiling with each other. They had still been friends back then, even though their relationship was beginning to strain. Less than a year later, Katsuki would fall into the river, and they would never be the same again. "Is that?" Kaminari asked, leaning closer to get a better look. "Holy shit! The Bakugou Fashion Company?" He whipped his head to stare at Kachan. "Your family owns a fashion company? More importantly, you're a model?" Serao hooted, snatching the magazine from Hagakure's hands so he could stuff his nose into the pages. "And, holy shit, is that Midoriya?" "No, it isn't." "You're both models?" Ashido squealed. The rest of the class hurried to gather around Serao, each of them trying their best to get a look at the catalog. Izuku put his face in his hands, groaning. When he peeked at Katsuki in the corner of his eye, he saw the blonde wasn't faring much better. "It was nice while it lasted, huh?" he sighed. "Yeah, it really fucking was," the older boy agreed, as he stood up and let off a small explosion, getting everyone's attention. "Listen up. Yes, my parents own the Bakugou Fashion Company. No, I didn't tell you. No, you didn't have the right to know. Yes, Deku and I used to be a model for the line. Keyword, used to. We're not models anymore." He paused, glancing over at Izuku. "Did I get it all?" "I think so." The green-haired boy stood up, not liking being the only one seated. Any questions?" "Just how long have you two known each other?" Todoroki asked, narrowing his eyes at them. "Yeah, you never said anything past middle school," Sato observed, tapping his chin. "Clearly it's been longer than that." "Our parents met in college," Izuku explained, unable to keep himself from wringing his hands nervously. "So, our whole lives, I guess." "Wow," Jiro said. "So, you guys are like brothers, then?" "No," the two of them snapped at the same time. Izuku wrinkled his nose at the thought, whereas Kachan gagged theatrically. "Yeah, that's a gross thing to think about, considering the amount of dreams I've had about him." "So, wait, Bakugou, you're loaded too?" Uraka pointed an accusing finger at Bakugou. "It's not just Ida, Todoroki, and Yaomomo?" "Well, of course," Yaomomo said primly. "He wears designer clothes after all." "What? He wears sweatpants," Kirishima deadpanned. "Designer sweatpants." "Can we focus on the big picture here?" Ashido cut in. "Bakugou, Midoriya, you both grew up surrounded by the most influential fashion empire of all of Japan, and yet you both dress like—" She gestured at their outfits. "That?" Izuku looked down at himself. He wore a baggy pair of basketball shorts and his favorite t-shirt, as well as an oversized zip-up hoodie that he wore unzipped. The shirt had once been loose, but given how Izuku had bulked up and grown a few inches over the past year, it fit him a bit more snugly now. The outfit was surely lackluster, but that's the way he liked it. Kachan was wearing a black t-shirt with a graphic, gory design of demons and other things on it, as well as a tight pair of black skinny jeans with rips all along the legs. If they weren't wearing their house slippers, then he would have been wearing his ratty combat boots as well. Personally, Izuku thought he looked wonderful, but apparently it wasn't a universal opinion. Izuku said, clearing his throat to get his mind out of the gutter. "We dress like this on purpose?" "What?" Shinzo said without inflection. Izuku laughed and rubbed the back of his head, running his hand over his undercut. It was still somewhat fresh, although it was still a bit prickly against his hand. "I mean, you couldn't really think I dress this way because I think I look good." When he looked over at their shocked shocked expressions, he faltered. Oh my god, you totally thought that. In our defense, you are criminally clueless, Kero, Asui stated bluntly. I am not. What about you then? Sarah pointed at an accusatory finger at Bakugou. Why do you dress like that? Katsuki's grin was sharp and cutting. Because it pisses off my mother so bad that she can barely speak to me. It's amazing. I need to sit down, Momo muttered, sinking into her seat on the couch. So, you're saying you can both dress well, and you choose not to? Kaminari cocked his head to the side. I don't think I believe you. You think that we don't know how to put on proper outfits? Kachan barked. We grew up in the fashion world, and we were loaded with that. Then prove it, Todoroki shrugged. Ask Momo to make you pieces and go put them on. I want to see this fashion sense you apparently have. Todoroki, Izuku started, but was cut off by Kachan's acceptance to the challenge. You're on half and half. Deku, Ponytail, get into the kitchen. But Kachan, Izuku whined. Now. When Izuku entered the common room first, he brought out his runway swagger that he hadn't used in a long time. He altered it a bit so it was less 8-year-old-ish, but he kept one of his hands in his pockets to make sure his back was straight. He'd chosen an outfit still somewhat in his aesthetic, or at least what his aesthetic would be if he bothered to try. He was actually really proud of it. It was a white button-down shirt with a darker brown, oversized sweater vest, both of which were tucked into a pair of light khakis that hugged his muscular legs. A deep brown belt, the same color as the brown messenger bag, tied the look together. As the class watched, he rolled the sleeves of his button-down shirt, showcasing a slightly different version of the look. There, you happy now? Wow, Hagakure breathed, breaking the stunned silence. Just wow. Yeah, I'll say, Katsuki said from behind Izuku. The younger boy turned to grin at his friend, who just strutted into the room behind him. Katsuki was dressed in the same black ripped jeans that he'd been in earlier, except this time he added tasteful chains that hung down from his legs. He'd changed out of his demonic, scary shirt for a white button-down like Izuku's. Unlike Izuku's, he'd left the top 4 buttons undone to show off his collarbone and the top of his chest. And also, unlike Izuku, he wore 3 separate necklaces. One a simple small chain that bordered on being a choker, the next a slightly thicker chain that hung down past the dip of his throat, a big bulky lock pendant hanging. The last necklace was a silver cross that went past the edge, dipping down into the buttons of his shirt. On his fingers he wore various rings, ranging from simple black bands to silver ornate skulls. Besides the white shirt, he wore a black jacket that wasn't quite a blazer, but not entirely out of the category. If Izuku thought he normally looked good, he was breathtaking now. Okay, Ashido squealed, her skin a much darker pink than usual. I take it back. I don't want you two to dress like this all the time. So powerful, Tokoyami muttered, squinting like they were glowing. What a mad banquet of darkness. You boys did a good job, Momo praised, as she exited the kitchen behind them. This is the last time I make anyone clothes, though. It's bad for the economy. Yeah, Katsuki rolled his eyes. He turned and dragged his eyes over Izuku's body. You did good, Deku. My mom would have an aneurysm if she saw. Speak for yourself, Izuku said back, smiling a bit. She snatched you right back into the modeling world. Please, as if I'd let her. Kachan, have you met your mom? She could ask me to murder a puppy, and I'd do it out of pure fear. Touche. So, you're both telling me I shouldn't send this picture to your mother? Kirishima said teasingly, snapping a picture the moment both boys whirled around to look at him. You're dead, shitty hair, Katsuki yelled, lunging for his best friend. Kirishima yelped it, lurching away as the chase was on. Izuku watched the two of them go, smiling to himself. He was glad Kachan had such fond friends. Tokoyami's right, Uraraka said, sliding up next to Izuku to bump his shoulder. You'd have too much power if you dressed like this every time. I'll take your dorky t-shirts, please. Me too, Izuku sighed. I'm gonna go change back. I forgot how much I hate tight clothing. He walked back to the kitchen where he'd left his folded clothes, his smile still firmly on his face as he listened to Kachan pin Kirishima down somewhere in the other room. Hello, everyone. That was my second ever podfic. Hope it turned out alright. About halfway through, my microphone decided to cut out. Sorry if you noticed that. If not, don't go looking for it. I'm happy you didn't notice it. If you have any recommendations on how I can make this better, please let me know. Also, if you have any fan fictions you want me to read, I'll leave a comment telling me what they are. Yeah, that's about it. If there's any noise in the background, I blame the dogs, birds, and my siblings. That's about it. See you guys next time. This is the Viridian Ghost signing out.